I stared at my phone, reading Mom's text message for the fifth time. "We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow. 2 p.m. Don't be late." My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling slightly. It had been 3 years since they'd acknowledged my existence, 3 years since they chose a golf trip with my brother over my wedding day. I could still see those empty seats where they should have been, still feel the sting of Carson's smirking face in that Instagram photo he posted from the course. The Porsche keys sat heavy in my palm. Yesterday's post showing the car had changed everything. They'd seen it, and suddenly I mattered again. I glanced at myself in the mirror, straightened my shoulders, and grabbed my purse. Tomorrow, I'd show up to that meeting. But not with what they expected. I sat in my car outside the house I grew up in, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The beige siding looked the same as it had my entire childhood, but everything felt different now. I needed to prepare myself for whatever was waiting inside, so I let my mind drift back to where this all started. 3 years ago, 1 week before my wedding, I'd been frantically addressing the last of the invitations when Mom called. I remembered picking up the phone with a smile, expecting her to ask about final details or offer to help with something. Instead, her voice had been cold and distant. "Beatriz, your father and I won't be able to make it to your wedding." The words hit me like a physical blow. I dropped the pen I was holding. "What? Mom? What are you talking about? Carson needs us. He's going through something difficult right now. We have to be there for him." I'd begged. I actually begged my own mother to come to my wedding. What could possibly be more important than your daughter's wedding day? "I've been planning this for 8 months. You've known the date for over a year." That's when Dad got on the phone. His voice had that tone he always used when he'd made up his mind and didn't want to argue. "You're being selfish, Beatriz. Your brother's marriage is falling apart. Real families support each other during crisis. You'll have other celebrations." The absurdity of that statement made me laugh through my tears. "Other celebrations? Dad, this is my only wedding. I'm marrying Jake, the man I love, the man I've been with for 4 years. Mom took the phone back. "Well, maybe if you'd chosen someone more suitable, someone with real ambition and prospects, we'd be more excited to attend." "A high school teacher, Beatriz? Really?" That comment cut deeper than anything else. They'd never hidden their disdain for Jake, never tried to get to know the kind, brilliant, passionate man I was marrying. They only saw his salary, his modest career, his lack of interest in wealth and status. The wedding had gone on without them. Jake's parents, bless their hearts, had both walked me down the aisle together. His mom held one arm, his dad held the other, and they'd told me I looked beautiful. I smiled for the photos, danced at the reception, and tried not to look at those 2 empty seats in the front row. Then, while we were cutting the cake, my friend Ashley showed me something on her phone. Carson had posted to Instagram. The caption read, "Best caddy crew ever," with a photo of him, Mom, and Dad on a pristine golf course. All 3 of them laughing and holding drinks. They weren't at some emergency. They were playing golf. On my wedding day, 2 weeks later, a card arrived in the mail. Inside was a Hallmark card with flowers on it and $50 in cash. Mom had written, "Sorry we missed it," in her careful handwriting, like they'd accidentally overlooked a casual brunch instead of deliberately skipping the most important day of my life. For 3 years after that, nothing. No calls on my birthday. No Christmas visits. No acknowledgement that I existed. Meanwhile, I watched from the outside as they showered Carson with attention. When his divorce was finalized 6 months after my wedding, they threw him a fresh start party. When he got his real estate license, Dad posted on Facebook about how proud he was. When Carson started dating Stephanie, Mom tagged along on their dates like some kind of chaperone. I threw myself into my marketing career, working 60 and 70-hour weeks. The pain of their rejection fueled something in me, some desperate need to prove I was worth something even if they couldn't see it. I climbed the ladder at my firm, won awards, brought in major clients, and then, 6 months ago, I did something terrifying and exhilarating. I quit my job and launched my own digital marketing agency. The first few months were brutal. I ate ramen for dinner more nights than I'd like to admit. Jake's teacher salary kept us afloat while I built my client base from nothing. But slowly, steadily, it started working. I landed a few small clients, then some bigger ones. And then, last month, I got the call that changed everything. Marcus Delaney owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across 3 states. He wanted to completely overhaul his digital presence, and he'd seen my work. We met for coffee, and by the end of that meeting, he'd offered me a contract worth $35,000 up front, with the potential for much more ongoing work. But there was something else. As part of the partnership, he wanted me to use one of his cars as a company car for a year, for branding purposes, he said. To show that I understood luxury markets. That's how I ended up with the Porsche. I didn't buy it. I didn't lease it personally. It was part of the business arrangement, essentially a loaner vehicle that I got to drive while I worked on his account. But it was gorgeous. Sleek, powerful, the kind of car I'd dreamed about as a kid but never imagined actually driving. I posted one photo on Instagram. Just one. The car in my apartment complex parking lot, golden hour lighting making it glow. The caption was simple. Hard work pays off. Within 2 hours, my phone had buzzed with a text from Mom. That's when I knew they'd been watching my social media this whole time, probably checking occasionally to see if I'd failed yet. Now, sitting outside their house, I took a deep breath and got out of the car. The used sedan Jake and I actually owned wasn't nearly as impressive as the Porsche, but it was reliable and paid for. I walked up the familiar pathway and opened the front door without knocking. If they wanted a family meeting, we were family, right? The living room was full. Mom sat in her usual chair by the window. Dad stood by the fireplace. Carson lounged on the couch with a pretty blonde woman I assumed was Stephanie. And then there was someone I didn't recognize at all. A man in a suit, maybe 50 years old, with a laptop set up on the coffee table. Mom stood when she saw me. Beatrice, thank you for coming. She moved like she might hug me, then seemed to think better of it. This is Gerald. He's our financial advisor. My stomach dropped. A financial advisor. They'd brought a financial advisor to our family meeting. Gerald smiled professionally and gestured to the couch. Please, sit down. We have a lot to discuss about your family's future. I remained standing. My family's future? Our family's future, Dad corrected. All of us together. That's when I understood. They thought I was rich. They'd seen the Porsche and assumed I had money, and now they needed something from me. Gerald opened his laptop and turned it to face me. I've prepared a presentation to help you understand the full scope of the situation. I sat down slowly, my mind racing. This was orchestrated, planned. They hadn't just invited me over for a conversation. They'd staged an entire intervention complete with visual aids. The first slide showed a photo of my childhood home. Your parents' primary residence, Gerald began in that calm, professional tone that financial advisors perfect. Currently valued at approximately $350,000. However, there's a significant problem. He clicked to the next slide. Red numbers filled the screen. Debt calculations, loan statements, credit card balances. Your father's business, Delaney Home Improvements, failed 2 years ago. The closure left them with substantial debt. They're currently $120,000 in the red. I looked at Dad. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the carpet like a scolded child. Gerald continued, clicking through more slides. Foreclosure notices, payment demands, collection agency letters. They're 3 months behind on their mortgage. The bank has initiated foreclosure proceedings. Without immediate intervention, they'll lose the house within 90 days. Mom started crying, actual tears running down her face. We didn't want to burden you with this before, she said, her voice breaking. You were just starting out with your new business. We thought we could handle it ourselves. But clearly we can't, Dad added, finally looking up. We've tried everything. Cut every expense. Sold things. Nothing's been enough. Carson leaned forward, his expression serious and sympathetic. I've already helped B. I gave them $40,000 last year, cleaned out most of my savings. But it wasn't enough, and now I'm tapped out completely. Stephanie touched his arm supportively, gazing at him like he was some kind of martyr. Carson's been so generous. He's done everything he can. I found my voice. So this is why you called me. After 3 years of silence. Because you need money. Because we're family, Mom said sharply. Family helps family. That's what being part of something means. Gerald cleared his throat. If I may, I've calculated exactly what's needed to stabilize the situation. $60,000 immediately to stop the foreclosure and settle the most pressing debts. Then approximately $2,000 per month in ongoing support until they can get back on their feet. The number hung in the air. $60,000. I'd just gotten my biggest contract ever, and they somehow knew that. They'd been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. My mind was spinning. Part of me wanted to stand up and walk out. They'd skipped my wedding. They'd ignored me for 3 years. They'd only remembered I existed when they thought I had something they could use. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being their little girl, felt guilty. What if they really were desperate? What if they actually lost their home? "You didn't come to my wedding," I said quietly. "You haven't called me in 3 years. Not on my birthday, not on holidays, nothing." Dad's jaw tightened. "We were dealing with our own crisis, Beatriz. We were ashamed. We didn't want you to see us failing like this." "We're proud of you," Mom added quickly. "We always knew you'd be successful. You're smart, driven, capable. We just handled everything wrong. We can admit that." Carson stood up and came to sit beside me on the couch. "Come on, sis. I know you're hurt, I get it. But we need to move past old wounds. They need us. Both of us. And I've already done my part." I wanted to believe them. Some pathetic part of me wanted so badly to believe that they actually cared, that their absence had been about shame rather than indifference. But something felt off. The timing was too convenient, the presentation too polished. "I need time to think," I said finally. "This is a huge ask. I need to review your documents, talk to Jake, figure out if this is even possible for us." "Of course," Gerald said smoothly. "I'll email you copies of everything. Take your time." "But not too much time," Dad added. "We have 60 days before the foreclosure is final. After that, there's nothing anyone can do." I stood up to leave. "I'll give you an answer in 3 days. That's the best I can do." Mom grabbed my hand as I passed her chair. "Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd help. You've always had such a good heart." As I walked toward the door, I needed to know something. "Carson, what about your ex-wife? Amanda was a finance executive, right? Didn't she help before the divorce?" The room went silent. Carson and my parents exchanged looks that I couldn't quite read. Finally, Carson spoke. "She left me because I'd already drained our savings helping Mom and Dad. That's why they need you now. I gave everything I had, and it cost me my marriage." I nodded slowly and left. But as I reached the front door, I heard Mom's voice from the kitchen. She must not have realized I was still in the house. "See? I told you the car would work." She's always been easy to manipulate. Give her a sob story, and she folds like a cheap card table. We'll get double what Carson gave us. I froze in the hallway. My hand was on the doorknob. I could have turned around, confronted them, demanded an explanation. But something stopped me. If they knew I'd heard, they'd just pivot, come up with new lies, new manipulations. Instead, I quietly opened and closed the door, making sure they heard it, then stood in the entryway for another minute, listening. Dad's voice. "You really think she'll give us 60,000? Mom, she'll give us whatever we want. She's desperate for our approval. Always has been." Carson, "What if she talks to Amanda?" Mom, "Why would she? They barely know each other. And even if she does, it's your word against a bitter ex-wife's. Beatriz will believe family." I walked to my car on numb legs. My heart felt like it was breaking all over again, the same way it had when they chose golf over my wedding. They weren't desperate. They weren't ashamed. This was a con, a carefully orchestrated manipulation designed to exploit my need for their love. But now I knew, and that changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Jake snored softly beside me, my mind replaying that overheard conversation on an endless loop. When dawn finally broke, I got up, made coffee, and told Jake everything. He was furious. They don't deserve a single penny. Let them lose the house. They've earned it. But what if they really are in trouble? I heard myself say, even though I knew better. What if the debt is real and they're just handling it badly? Jake took my hands. "B, you heard what they said. This is manipulation, pure and simple. I need to know the truth," I said. "I can't make a decision based on overheard conversation. What if I misunderstood? What if there's context I'm missing? So I decided to investigate. I called Gerald's office first thing that morning. His secretary put me through after a brief hold. "Beatriz," he said warmly, "have you had a chance to review the documents?" "I'm working through them," I lied. "But I had a quick question. When my mother reached out to you, how did she describe what she wanted from this meeting?" There was a pause. "I'm not sure I understand. I mean, did she ask you to present the information in a certain way? To emphasize certain aspects?" Another pause, longer this time. "Your mother was very specific about presentation. She wanted to ensure maximum emotional impact. She said it was important that you understand the severity of the situation." Maximum emotional impact. The words made my stomach turn. "Thank you, Gerald, that's helpful." I hung up and sat staring at my phone. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I scrolled through my old emails until I found one from 3 years ago, a group message about my wedding. Amanda, Carson's ex-wife, had been copied on it. I clicked her email address and composed a message. "Amanda, this is Beatriz. I know this is out of the blue, but I need to ask you something about Carson and my parents. Would you be willing to talk?" She responded within an hour. "Call me." I stepped out onto our apartment balcony for privacy and dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. "Beatriz, I honestly never thought I'd hear from you. I'm sorry to bother you. I just need to know the truth about something. About Carson draining your savings to help my parents?" There was a long silence. Then Amanda laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Is that what he told you?" "That's what he told me yesterday, at a family meeting where they asked me for $60,000. "Oh my God," Amanda breathed. "They're running the same con on you." My hands started shaking. "What con?" "Amanda, what really happened? Carson didn't drain our savings helping your parents. He drained our savings on Stephanie. He'd been having an affair with her for 2 years before I found out. Fancy hotels, expensive gifts, trips to Napa Valley. He even set her up in an apartment and paid her rent for 6 months. When I discovered everything and filed for divorce, he needed an excuse for where all the money went, so he claimed he'd been helping your parents." I felt sick. Did they know? My parents, I mean. "No? Beatriz, your mother introduced them. Some charity event at the country club. Your mom saw that Stephanie came from money and actively encouraged the relationship. She thought if Carson married rich, it would solve everyone's problems." "But the divorce," I said weakly. "He got nothing. Because he cheated. The prenup was airtight. He walked away with basically nothing, and Stephanie's been supporting him ever since. Her trust fund is substantial." I sat down hard on one of our cheap plastic patio chairs. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Who would I tell? Your family closed ranks. I tried to reach out to you once, right after the divorce, but Carson said you'd taken his side, said you thought I was lying. I never heard from you. I didn't even know the details. They just told me you two were divorcing and Carson was heartbroken." Amanda's voice softened. "I'm sorry about your wedding, by the way. I heard they didn't show up. That was cruel." We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me more about Carson's affair, about how my parents had known all along and covered for him, about how they'd convinced Stephanie's wealthy parents that Carson was a successful businessman with excellent prospects. It was all lies, built on lies, supported by more lies. After I hung up, I sat on the balcony for a long time. Then I did something probably illegal but necessary. I logged into Instagram using Jake's account instead of my own, since my parents had blocked me from seeing their profiles years ago. I needed to see what they'd been posting. I scrolled back 6 months to the time when they claimed they were in the depths of financial crisis. There was Mom at a fancy restaurant, champagne in hand. Dad on a beach in Hawaii, sunset behind him. A photo of Mom's hand showing off a diamond bracelet with the caption, "Spoiled by my wonderful husband." Vacation photos, restaurant photos, shopping photos. These were not people in crisis. These were people living well. I called Carson next. He answered on the third ring, sounding annoyed. "What?" I talked to Amanda. Silence. "Carson, what did that bitter woman tell you?" His voice had gone cold. "The truth. About Stephanie. About where the money really went. About Mom introducing you to." "Stay out of this, Beatriz. You don't understand family loyalty." "Loyalty? You all lied to me. You're trying to scam me out of $60,000. We need that money, he hissed. And you have it. Don't you dare back out now. Or what? Or you're going to regret it. I promise you that. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, my heart pounding. That was a threat. My own brother had just threatened me. That night, I couldn't eat dinner. Jake tried to comfort me, but I felt numb. Everything I thought I knew about my family was crumbling. They weren't just distant or cold. They were actively malicious. At 9:30 p.m., my email pinged. The sender was listed as a concerned friend. I almost deleted it as spam, but something made me open it. Inside was a message. Beatrice, you don't know me, but I knew your Aunt Helen. I thought you should see these documents. Your family has done this before. You're not the first target. Attached were files. Bank statements showing accounts in my parents' names, with over $200,000 in various banks. The debt was real, but they weren't broke, not even close. More files showed a pattern of borrowing money from family members and friends over the past decade, always with sob stories, never paying anything back. There were emails between my parents discussing their projects, which I quickly realized meant their scams, screenshots of text messages. And then, at the bottom, something that made me stop breathing. A photo of my Aunt Helen's obituary from last year. She died at 72. The cause of death was listed as suicide. Attached to the obituary was a note. Your parents borrowed $50,000 from Helen's retirement account 3 years ago. They promised to pay it back within a year. They never did. She lost everything. She took her own life 6 months after she realized the money was gone forever. I thought you should know what your family is capable of. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Jake found me there 20 minutes later, sitting on the cold tile floor, crying. They killed her, I whispered. They killed Aunt Helen. I barely slept. By morning, I'd decided to go to the police with everything Patricia had sent me. That was her name, the concerned friend. She'd included her contact information at the bottom of the email, identifying herself as Aunt Helen's best friend and executor. But before I could even get dressed, my phone started exploding with notifications. Text messages, Instagram alerts, Facebook notifications, dozens of them. I opened Instagram first. Carson had posted at 6 a.m. The post showed a photo of the Porsche from my Instagram and a second photo of Mom and Dad looking sad and tired. The caption made my blood run cold. Heartbroken to share that my sister Beatrice has refused to help our parents, who are about to lose their home. She drives a $135,000 Porsche, but won't give our mom and dad $60,000 to keep them from being homeless. They raised her, sacrificed for her, loved her. But now that she's successful, she's turned her back on family. Blood means nothing to some people. Praying for her heart to soften. He'd tagged me. He'd tagged our parents. He'd tagged dozens of people I went to high school with, people from college, distant relatives, family friends. The post was public. The comments were already flooding in. This is disgusting. How can you abandon your parents? Shame on you, Beatrice. I always knew she was selfish. That car probably cost more than their house. She could save them and won't. My business Instagram was getting hit too. Angry messages from strangers. I'll never work with someone who treats family like this. You should be ashamed. Karma will get you. I scrolled through Facebook. He'd posted the same thing there. Mom had shared it with crying emojis and a caption, "We're so hurt. We just wanted our daughter's love and support." My phone rang. It was Jake's colleague from school, someone I'd met at a faculty party. "Hey, Beatrice. Listen, I saw Carson's post. Is everything okay?" "It's complicated," I managed to say. "Some of the other teachers are asking Jake about it. They're concerned. I just wanted to reach out." After I hung up, more calls came. Old friends from high school wanting to check in, former coworkers asking if the posts were true. Each conversation felt like a knife twisting deeper. By noon, I'd received over 200 notifications. People I hadn't spoken to in years were calling me selfish, heartless, cruel. Someone found my business website and left a 1-star review. Would never hire someone who abandons their homeless parents. Jake came home from school early. "Beatrice, everyone's talking about this. They're asking me if you really refuse to help your parents. What did you tell them?" The truth. That your parents are lying. But they don't believe me. They think I'm covering for you. I felt trapped. If I posted the truth publicly, if I shared the bank statements and the evidence of their cons, I'd be just as bad as Carson. I'd be airing family business, exposing them, attacking them. But if I stayed silent, everyone would believe their version. I tried to set boundaries in a private text to my mother. What Carson posted is not the full story. You know that. She responded immediately. We're just being honest about our pain. You can end this anytime by doing the right thing. That's when I realized this was part of the plan. The social media attack wasn't spontaneous anger. It was calculated pressure. They were destroying my reputation to force my hand. I called Patricia, the woman who'd sent me the evidence. She answered right away. I saw the posts, she said. I'm so sorry. Why are they doing this? Because it works. They did something similar to Helen. Made her look like the bad guy to the rest of the family when she started asking for her money back. By the time anyone realized the truth, it was too late. What do? You fight back. With the truth. All of it. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to give them one more chance to be honest. I don't know why I felt I owed them that, but I did. I drove to their house that afternoon. I didn't text first. I just showed up and walked in. They weren't expecting me. Dad was on the phone in the kitchen, and I heard him before I saw him. Yeah, the Facebook thing is working perfectly. She'll cave by tonight. She can't handle public pressure. I stepped into the doorway. Cave to what, exactly? He spun around, nearly dropping the phone. I'll call you back, he said quickly and hung up. Mom was at the kitchen table counting cash. Lots of it. Stacks of 20s and 50s spread across the surface. Where did that money come from? I asked. She didn't even look flustered. She calmly started gathering the bills. We sold some jewelry. We're scraping together anything we can to try to save ourselves since our own daughter won't help. That's at least $3,000. It was my mother's jewelry, family heirlooms, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I walked closer to the table. I know about Aunt Helen. The room went silent. Mom's hands froze over the money. I know you took $50,000 from her retirement account. I know you never paid it back. I know she killed herself because of what you did. Dad's face hardened. That's a lie. Who told you that? Amanda? She's trying to turn you against us. It wasn't Amanda. It was Helen's best friend. She sent me bank statements, emails, everything. Mom stood up, and her whole demeanor changed. The sad, desperate mother act vanished. Her voice went cold. That was unfortunate. Helen made her own choices. You destroyed her life. We borrowed money, Dad said. That's not a crime. We fully intended to pay it back. Things just got complicated. You've done this to multiple families. This is a pattern. Mom laughed, actually laughed. Oh, you think you figured something out? You think you're so smart now? Before I could respond, the front door opened. Carson walked in carrying shopping bags from expensive stores. Designer logos on every bag. I stared at him. I thought you were tapped out. Where did you get money for shopping? He looked at our parents nervously, then back at me. Stephanie gave me some cash. The Stephanie who's supposedly unaware of your financial situation? That's when it all clicked into place. I looked at the three of them, really looked at them, and saw the truth written across their faces. You're all in on this together. This whole thing. It's not just desperation or poor choices. You're running cons on family members. Deliberately. As a team. Mom's smile was chilling. Oh, sweetie, you always were the naive one. Did you really think we needed your money? I couldn't speak. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute. Dad stepped closer. This isn't about money. This is about teaching you a lesson. What lesson? That you don't get to be successful and happy while ignoring your family. You married that nobody teacher. You moved away. You acted like you were better than us. So now everyone knows you're just a selfish brat in a fancy car. Carson dropped his shopping bags and crossed his arms. Stephanie looked up your Porsche deal, by the way. It's not even yours. It's a loaner from a client. You're not actually rich at all. They all started laughing. Standing in that kitchen, surrounded by the people who were supposed to love me, laughing at my humiliation. Mom picked up her phone. We're going to destroy your little business. your reputation, everything. That's what you get for thinking you're special. I couldn't breathe. I turned and walked out of that house, their laughter following me all the way to my car. The next 3 days were the worst of my life. On day 1, Marcus Delaney called me. My heart sank the moment I saw his name on my phone. Beatrice, we need to talk about something. I can explain, I started, but he cut me off. I've been getting messages, lots of them. People concerned about brand association with family drama. They're tagging the dealership in comments about your parents. Mr. Delaney, my family is lying. They're running a con, and I can prove it. I believe you, he said, and I felt a moment of hope. But that doesn't change the optics. We're a luxury brand. We can't be associated with this kind of public conflict, regardless of who's at fault. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to terminate the contract. Please, I whispered. This is my business. I can fix this. The decision is final. You can keep the car through the end of the week, then we'll need it back. I'll pay you for the work completed so far, but we can't move forward with the full contract. He hung up. Just like that, $35,000 in future income vanished. I sat in my office, staring at nothing. The next call came an hour later. Taylor Stevens, who ran a boutique hotel chain. She'd been one of my first clients. Beatrice, I'm so sorry, but we're going to need to pause our contract. Because of the social media posts. My investors saw them. They're concerned. Just until this blows over, okay? It's not permanent, but we both knew it was. By the end of day 1, I'd lost Marcus's huge contract and 2 other clients had paused their agreements. My carefully built business was crumbling. Day 2 was worse. I had 2 employees, recent college graduates I'd hired to help with social media management and content creation. I loved those kids. They were talented and eager and believed in what we were building. I had to let them both go. I couldn't make payroll. The money from Marcus wouldn't arrive for 2 weeks, and even when it did, it wouldn't be enough to sustain 3 salaries with no active contracts. I'm so sorry, I told them as I explained the situation. This isn't about your work. You've both been incredible. They were understanding, but I saw the disappointment in their eyes. They'd trusted me, and I'd failed them. I spent that night reviewing my finances with Jake. We had $15,000 in savings. Our rent was $3,000 a month. His teacher's salary was $48,000 a year, which worked out to about $3,000 a month after taxes. We could survive on that, but barely. And my business was effectively dead. We'll be okay, Jake kept saying. We'll figure it out. But I felt like I was drowning. Day 3 brought a new nightmare. A police detective called. Miss Beatrice Hutchins? This is Detective Ramirez. We received a complaint about harassment. Your parents have filed a report claiming you threatened them. That's not true. Can you come down to the station? We just need to ask you some questions. I went, bringing the financial documents Patricia had sent me. I explained everything to the detective, the cons, the manipulation, the lies. He listened patiently, then said, These documents were sent anonymously. We can't verify their authenticity without subpoenas, and your parents deny everything. They say you're angry about money and making things up. But I'm not the one lying. Maybe not. But without hard proof that stands up legally, this is a civil family matter. My advice? Stay away from your parents. No contact, no visits. Because if you show up at their house again, they can get a restraining order, and then you'll have real legal problems. I left the police station feeling helpless. They'd even turned the law against me. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Beatrice? This is Patricia, Helen's friend. Patricia. Hi. I heard what they did, the social media posts, destroying your business. I can't stay silent anymore. I don't understand. Helen kept detailed records of everything, not just bank statements, recordings. She wore a wire during her last few conversations with your parents. She documented everything because she was planning to expose them before she died. My heart started racing. Recordings? Hours of them. Your parents admitting to the cons, planning new ones, laughing about the people they'd scammed. I have her entire file. Emails, bank records, testimony from 4 other families they've done this to. Evidence of loan fraud and possible money laundering. Why didn't you come forward before? Her voice shook. I was afraid. Your father threatened me after Helen died. He said if I went to the police, he'd make sure I regretted it. But seeing what they're doing to you, I can't stay quiet. This is enough to put them in prison, Beatrice. All three of them. But you need a lawyer. She emailed me everything that night. I stayed up until 3 a.m., reading through it all. It was worse than I'd imagined. 5 families over 10 years. They'd perfected their system. Create a crisis, real or manufactured. Borrow money from sympathetic family or friends. Never pay it back. Move on to the next target. When people started asking questions, they'd use intimidation, threats, or public shaming to make the victims back down. There were recordings of mom and dad planning cons. Mark will be easy. His mother just died. He's vulnerable right now. Sarah inherited money. We need to approach her before she invests it. There were emails showing they'd forged documents to get loans they weren't qualified for. Bank records showing money being shuffled between accounts to hide assets. Screenshots of texts where they blackmailed Carson by threatening to tell Stephanie's wealthy parents about his affair unless he helped with their schemes. My own brother was as much a victim as an accomplice. They had leverage over him, and he'd gotten trapped in their web. The evidence was overwhelming. Patricia was right. This was enough to send them to prison for years. But that's when I faced the hardest question of my life. Did I want to be the person who sent her own parents to jail? I sat at my kitchen table with all the evidence spread in front of me, and I cried. Jake held me while I sobbed. What do? I asked him. If I turn this over to the police, they go to prison. Mom, Dad, maybe even Carson. But if I don't, they'll keep doing this to other people. And they've already destroyed me. Jake was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What would make you able to live with yourself? Not what's easiest, not what's safest, what lets you sleep at night." That's when I knew what I had to do. Not revenge, something else, something that might actually fix this. It took me 2 weeks to set everything up. 2 weeks of planning, coordinating, and gathering allies. Patricia was crucial. She connected me with the other families my parents had scammed. One by one, I reached out to them. There was Douglas, who'd lost $20,000 he'd borrowed from his own retirement account. There was Margaret, who'd given them $15,000 that was supposed to be for her daughter's college fund. There was Paul, whose small business loan got derailed when my parents defaulted on money they'd promised to invest. We formed a group, not for revenge, but for restitution. I also hired a lawyer, someone Patricia recommended, who specialized in family financial fraud. Her name was Diane, and she was sharp as a knife. She reviewed all the evidence and confirmed what Patricia had said. This was prosecutable, definitely. But she also said something interesting. You could give them a choice, restitution or prosecution. Make them pay everyone back, or turn this over to the district attorney. It's not technically legal coercion because you're well within your rights to report crimes. You'd just be offering them an alternative resolution. That's what we did. We built a case for restitution. Diane calculated every dollar my parents had taken from every family, with interest. The total came to $420,000. Meanwhile, I made one more move. I texted Mom. "You win. I'll give you the $60,000. I need a week to liquidate some assets. Let's meet at your house next Saturday, at 2 p.m. I'll bring a check." She responded within 30 seconds. "Oh, sweetheart, I knew you'd come around. Family is everything. See you Saturday." Carson texted separately. "Proud of you, sis. This is the right thing to do." I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I sent out a different set of invitations. I contacted everyone who'd attacked me on social media, everyone who'd called me selfish, heartless, cruel. I sent them a message. I'm making a public statement and giving my parents the financial help they requested. I'd like you all to be there to witness it, so you can see that I'm not the person you thought I was. Saturday, 2 p.m., at my parents' address. Please come. Over 40 people confirmed they'd attend. Family members, old friends, neighbors, even some people from the community who'd seen Carson's posts and felt invested in the drama. My parents were thrilled. Mom called me Thursday night. "Beatrice, all these people are coming Saturday? This is wonderful. It'll show everyone we're a real family." "That's the idea," I said. Saturday morning, I woke up calm. Jake was nervous, pacing our apartment. Are you sure about this? Completely. They're going to be so angry. Let them be angry. I'm done being afraid of them. We drove to my parents' house. Patricia met us in the driveway. Diane, the lawyer, was right behind her. We walked up to the door together and I rang the bell. Mom answered wearing a nice dress and fresh makeup. Beatrice, and you brought friends. Come in, come in. The house was packed. Relatives I hadn't seen in years. Family friends, neighbors. Even some people I didn't recognize. Carson and Stephanie stood near the fireplace. Dad was schmoozing with guests. Like this was a party. I walked to the center of the living room and waited for everyone to quiet down. Mom stood beside me, smiling like we were about to announce something wonderful. Thank you all for coming, I said. My voice was steady. I asked you here because I wanted to make things right, but not the way my parents expect. Mom's smile faltered slightly. Beatrice, maybe we should talk privately first. No. This needs to be public. Just like Carson's post was public. I pulled a large envelope from my bag. 2 weeks ago, my parents asked me for $60,000. They said they were in financial crisis and about to lose their home. But that wasn't the whole truth. I started handing out papers to people in the room. Copies of the bank statements, emails, recordings, transcripts. My parents have been running financial cons on our family for over a decade. These documents prove it. Dad stepped forward. This is ridiculous. She's making this up because she's embarrassed. These are bank records showing you have over $200,000 in various accounts while claiming to be broke. These are emails where you and Mom plan how to manipulate family members. These are recordings, made by Aunt Helen before she died, where you admit to running scams. I looked around the room. People were reading the papers, their faces changing from confusion to shock to anger. I'm not here to destroy them, though I could. Patricia and I have enough evidence to send them to prison for years. Patricia stood up. I'm Helen's executor. Everything Beatrice says is true. I've been gathering evidence since Helen's death. I pulled out 2 formal documents. Mom, Dad, Carson, you have a choice. Option 1. Within 90 days, you pay back every family you've scammed. The total, with interest, is $420,000. Diane here has itemized every transaction. If you pay full restitution, I won't press charges. Mom's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. Then sell the house. Liquidate your assets. Figure it out. Option 2. I turn all of this over to the district attorney on Monday morning, and you go to prison for fraud, identity theft, and blackmail. Your choice. The room erupted. People were shouting questions, demanding explanations. Dad tried to claim the documents were fake, but Douglas stood up. They're not fake. They did the same thing to me 3 years ago. Took $20,000 and never paid it back. Margaret stood next. $15,000 from me. They said it was for medical bills. It was all lies. One by one, people confirmed my story. The room turned on my parents. Some people just got up and left. Others stayed to confront Mom and Dad directly. Carson tried to slip out, but I stopped him. Not so fast. You're part of this too. Beatrice, please. Stephanie's family can't know. Too late. I handed Stephanie a separate envelope. Everything about Carson's involvement. Every lie he told you. Every scam he helped with. You deserve to know the truth. Stephanie opened it with shaking hands. She read for maybe 30 seconds, then looked at Carson with pure disgust. You told me your family was normal. You said your sister was just jealous. Babe, I can explain. Don't. She walked out. Carson ran after her. When the chaos finally died down, only my parents, Patricia, Diane, Jake, and I, remained in the room. Mom was crying, but this time they weren't manipulative tears. These were real. Scared. How can you do this to us? She whispered. The same way you skipped my wedding. The same way you ignored me for 3 years. The same way you tried to destroy my business. The same way you drove Aunt Helen to kill herself. Dad tried once more. We're still your parents. No. You're just people who gave birth to me. Real parents don't do what you've done. Diane spoke up. You have 72 hours to decide. Option 1 or option 2. If we don't hear from you by Monday at 9 a.m., everything goes to the district attorney. We left them sitting in that empty house, surrounded by the wreckage of their lies. As Jake and I walked to our car, the same used sedan we'd driven all along, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Light. Free. Do you think they'll pay? Jake asked. I don't know. But that's not my problem anymore. 3 months later, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror fixing my hair. Jake came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. You look beautiful, he said. I look nervous. That too. Today was special, but first, I wanted to tell you what happened with my parents. They chose option 1, barely. On Monday morning at 8:55, Diane received a call from their lawyer. They would pay full restitution within 90 days. They sold the house within 6 weeks. It went for $340,000. After paying off their legitimate debts and mortgage, they had enough left to start the restitution payments. They borrowed the rest from Stephanie's family, of all people. Apparently, Stephanie, despite leaving Carson, felt guilty about the situation and convinced her parents to extend a loan with strict repayment terms and heavy interest. My parents agreed because prison was worse. Every family got their money back. Douglas, Margaret, Paul, the others. Even Aunt Helen's estate received the $50,000 they'd stolen. Patricia made sure of that. I never spoke to my parents directly through any of it. Everything went through lawyers. They tried to email me once, about 6 weeks in. We're doing what you asked. Can we please talk now? I didn't respond. What was there to say? Carson and Stephanie broke up for good. She moved back to Colorado. He's living in a small apartment in the old part of town, working as a regular real estate agent instead of the high-flying investor he'd pretended to be. He tried to call me twice. I didn't answer. My parents moved to Nevada, to some small rental property outside Las Vegas. I found out through Patricia. They're living modestly now, actually working regular jobs to make the loan payments. Dad got a job at a hardware store. Mom works at a call center. It's not the life they wanted, but it's the life their choices earned them. As for me, things got better. Slowly, but steadily. The people who'd attacked me on social media publicly apologized. Several of them became clients. Turns out, when you're wrongly accused of something and then proven innocent, people feel guilty and want to make amends. My business didn't come back all at once, but it came back. I have 3 steady clients now. Not huge contracts like the dealership, but solid, sustainable work. I'm not rich. I don't drive a Porsche. But I'm building something real, something I'm proud of. One Saturday, about a month after the confrontation, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a young woman around 25 years old standing there. Are you Beatriz? Yes. I'm Christina. I'm your cousin, your dad's brother's daughter. I didn't even know I had this cousin. I'm sorry, I don't understand. My dad cut off contact with your dad 15 years ago after your parents tried to borrow money from us with some story about medical bills. Dad saw through it and refused. Your dad never forgave him for that. But I saw everything that happened with you online. I wanted to meet you. Dad showed me your wedding photos. I wish I'd been there. We went to coffee that afternoon and talked for 3 hours. Christina is brilliant, studying veterinary medicine, and funny in this dry way that made me laugh harder than I had in months. She became family. Real family. The kind that shows up not because they need something, but because they want to know you. Through Christina, I met more of Dad's side of the family. They'd all been cut off over the years for various reasons, usually because they'd figured out my parents' games and refused to play along. Suddenly, I had cousins, aunts, uncles I'd never known existed. They welcomed me with open arms. Patricia became a close friend, too. She's 72 years old, retired, and spends her time gardening and volunteering at a literacy center. Every Sunday, she comes over for dinner. She tells stories about Aunt Helen, and I finally got to know the aunt I'd barely remembered. Helen had been kind, generous, trusting, all the things my parents had exploited. She'd be proud of you, Patricia told me one night, for how you handled this. You could have destroyed them, but you gave them a chance to make it right. That takes more strength than revenge. About 2 months after everything happened, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting looked feminine and neat. Inside was a letter from Stephanie. Beatriz, I wanted to thank you. I know breaking up with Carson hurt at the time, but you saved me from making an even bigger mistake. I was planning to marry him. My family was planning to invest in a business venture with him. It would have been a disaster. I've been in therapy since we broke up, learning about manipulation and emotional abuse. I'm healing. What you did was brave. You showed me the truth even when it would have been easier to stay quiet. Enclosed is a small token of appreciation. My family wanted to do something to make up for almost getting involved with your family. Inside the envelope was a check for $5,000. The note said it was partial compensation for my lost business income. I cried reading it. Not because of the money, though it helped, but because someone saw what I'd done and understood. Today, the reason I'm fixing my hair and wearing a nice dress is that Jake and I are renewing our vows. It's a small ceremony, just 20 people. Patricia is there, Christina, and several of my newfound cousins. Jake's parents, of course, some close friends. Two of the families my parents scammed, who've become genuine friends over these months. No fancy venue. We're doing it in Patricia's backyard, which she spent weeks preparing. String lights in the trees, folding chairs on the lawn. A simple arch covered in flowers that Christina helped arrange. My wedding 3 years ago was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but it was shadowed by absence and betrayal. Today feels different. Everyone here chose to be here. They love us. They support us. That's what family is supposed to be. As I stand here preparing to walk out into that backyard, I think about everything I learned, about the Porsche that got my parents' attention but wasn't actually mine, about how success isn't measured in cars or money, but in the people who show up when it matters, about how the family you choose can be stronger than the family you're born into. I used to think I needed my parents' approval to be whole. I thought their love was something I had to earn, that if I just achieved enough, succeeded enough, proved myself enough, they'd finally see my worth. But I was looking in the wrong place. My worth was never dependent on their recognition. I was always valuable. I just needed to see it myself. The Porsche got them to notice me. But losing it taught me something better. I don't need symbols of status to know who I am. I don't need their validation to be successful. Success is peace. It's boundaries. It's surrounding yourself with people who genuinely love you, not because of what you can give them, but because of who you are. I showed up to that family meeting with a surprise. Not money, not forgiveness they hadn't earned, but evidence, truth, and a choice that put the power back where it belonged. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so full of love and authenticity that you don't need validation from people who never deserved to give it in the first place. I'm not in contact with my parents anymore. Maybe someday that will change. Maybe it won't. But I've made peace with it. They're living with the consequences of their choices, and I'm living with the freedom of mine. Jake calls from the backyard. B, everyone's ready. I take one last look in the mirror. The woman looking back is different from the one who sat in her car 3 months ago, clutching those Porsche keys, wondering if her parents might finally love her. This woman knows her worth, and she doesn't need a luxury car to prove it. So I want to ask you something, and I really want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose between what's right and what's easy when it comes to family? How do you set boundaries with people who are supposed to love you but keep hurting you? Leave your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've handled situations like this. And if this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in dealing with difficult family dynamics. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more real stories about overcoming betrayal and finding strength. And please share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes people need to know that choosing yourself over toxic family members isn't selfish. It's survival. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort or maybe some courage to face your own difficult situations. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to know your worth. You've always been worthy. You've always been enough. I wish you peace, genuine love, and the strength to build the family you deserve, whether that's the one you were born into or the one you choose for yourself. Take care.